What did you say?
Wait, no, honey, no,
never
honey.
happen.
I don't know what you're hearing because I talked to the guy, and the guy said the only well in the entire Hoko area that's as deep as ours is ours. Ours is the deepest of all. It will never go dry. And the creek that runs in our backyard, it never dries up. And the river, that never dries up.
And what happened?
The water stopped.
Yes.
And the creek dried up. And we rescued baby salmon. And then the river dried up and we had to rescue salmon in the river too.
Yes, we did.
Welcome
to another episode
of Driving to the Res
with your favorite hosts,
Larry and
Inelia.
Yay.
Yay! And on our second part of this podcast,
yes,
we have our deep dive panelists, experts in their field.
Yes, indeed.
And all of them have had an amazing journey and history of mystical and esoteric training. So,
don't miss it.
Excellent. All right. Today we're going to be talking about our water fundraiser at the Shamanshack. We need your $1 or more.
We'd like your $1 or more.
Yes.
We'd like to include you in the process.
We would like you to.
Inclusive process.
It's a very inclusive process, yes.
I don't mind. Well, I do mind digging it myself. It's a lot of digging.
There's a lot of digging.
Your son Brett will help since he has a new steel shovel.
Yes.
But I don't think we're going to make it much past 10 feet.
No.
Or maybe 5 feet.
I doubt it. You'll make it into any. Yes.
And we've got to get 100 feet or so.
That's right, yes.
Somewhere in our neighborhood. So,
and for that, we need a well driller.
The kind that comes on a truck.
A big truck.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're a peculiar sort, I have found.
Yes.
Peculiar
in this area,
sort.
especially.
Yes. Yeah. Not negative. It's just they are particular. And, yeah. So a couple of them that I'd called in the past. Yeah. Where it's like.
Next year.
Maybe, maybe next year. Yeah. I don't really like drive that far.
Yeah.
It's like half an hour. That's too far. I'm not driving.
Well, over here it's more like an hour and a half for anybody else. So
either way,
they don't want to drive all this way. But we found one that was working in the area.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yep, I'll come over and do it."
Yep.
This summer. So we're betting on him. And he's very particular. He's kind of cool.
Yes.
In case you're not familiar with the Shamanshack, it is a community hall where Gaia and high-frequency humans gather and become one. It is sacred land that is owned by yours truly, Larry and Inelia. The vibrational frequency at the Shamanshack is much higher and stronger than other places. This fact alone makes this location unique to the known Earth. What do you have to say about that, honey?
Shamanshack is unique.
Indeed.
Indeed. I found it to be also particular.
I know, right? Yes. Although Gaia does come through very strongly about what she wants there. And for us to arrange and organize.
It's an odd thing in a sense. Mm-hmm. The Shamanshack, as a community hall, it makes sense. All over the world, tribes, and then usually each tribe will have their gathering place, and then as we've modernized, we call it now a community hall. So when you go to the res, we have a community hall which we outgrew a little bit as a tribe, so we made a new community hall but called it the gym.
Right.
Because we like to use. I think that we could get funding for a gym but not for a community hall.
That makes sense. Yes.
Plus the funders who were writing their funding were like basketball fans. So anyway, community hall is a common enough thing. And then when you get to, I think, outside the res, they have these community halls also, usually attached to organizations or ethnic groups or counties sometimes, depending on how tight-knit the community is, right? They'll have a community hall, or they'll get them and call them like a Masonic lodges or other things, right?
Right.
Either way, the Shamanshack serves as a community hall for the high-frequency human collective in this area, with Gaia as a driver.
Right.
And so we tend to think of it like it looks like a house, and we go there and we eat. We have bedrooms, but we're not often sleeping in them. And we have
one bedroom.
we have, it's just particular.
It's very particular.
When it's a hosting something that's been requested, then it's like the perfect everything.
Yeah, the requests come in from either the human collective or Gaia.
Right.
And they're usually not quiet or ambiguous. They're quite clear. And the whole community aspect, I think we were both dragged into a community aspect of experiencing the new paradigm kicking and screaming.
A little bit, yeah.
And this has been an amazing learning process. One of the things that particular about the Shamanshack is that it's always evolving, always changing, always morphing into something new.
Yeah. Right when you think you've got it nailed down and I figured it out, it's like the season changes.
Yeah.
In a sense, like Gaia, like it's wintertime now. The leaves got to fall off. It's like, but I just got all the leaves on. Oh, really?
Indeed, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so it goes from like, here, I'll host this. Here's a place for you to live. Nah, not time for you to live here anymore. Get out.
Yeah.
Here's a place for an event. Okay, event's over. Get out. Here's a place for this. All right, now let's do this other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like like you could predict it.
Yeah.
But I think...
And it is based, I mean, all the
evolution.
events we've had there and the individuals who are part of the community are based on my teachings.
Yes.
The Benz method, right? So that brings a new dynamic to it, in my opinion.
Right. It is definitely associated with that.
Yeah. And I'm going to share something very personal here.
Okay.
Is that okay? Yeah.
I guess if there's anywhere to share something personal,
it's
with everyone at a public level. On a public
level, yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So here's the thing.
Okay.
So growing up and being a person on the planet, just like many of our listeners, I found it very difficult to interact with other people. To me, the interaction was painful sometimes and uncomfortable. And at the lowest level, it was like boring. And why? Because people were so obsessed with drama. So let's say I was a teenager and I'd go to school and there was a group of kids laughing and talking, and I'd go over thinking it was going to be interesting. And they're talking about the latest soap opera on television. And
wow.
I mean, for many people that's interesting. But for me, it was like, right? And then, or are you going to the girls' bathroom and there'll be a girl crying her eyes out and 3 or 4 girls around her. And I'm like, whoa, there's something I can do, to help. Oh, her makeup had run and she couldn't face being in the classroom.
Everybody's going to notice.
Everybody's going to notice.
Yes.
And I was like, okay. So I wasn't judging, but I just didn't find it interesting.
And you couldn't engage at that level of...
I couldn't engage at that level. And then,
that means something, right?
Yeah. And then my parents were both politicians, professional politicians.
Boy.
So they were always politicking. And I would look at the national or international political situation and I would see the energy lines and I would see what was going on. And I was like, really? Why would you do that? Why would you be involved in that? Don't you understand what people really want and what they're here to do? Whatever. And so that is part of it. So in 2014, I received guidance from the High Frequency Collective and Gaia that they wanted to start community in the new paradigm. And I'm like, I'm allergic to communities, man. This is not good. I mean, everybody knows that groups corrupt. They get corrupted very quickly. And I had seen it, being in the daughter of politicians. I grew up with 2 political group meetings a week in my house and in a local hall, community hall. And I knew how they went. It was like egos and divas and unworthiness and worthiness and self-interest all around. And I did not want to be part of that. Absolutely not. And then the answer was, well, the new paradigm is group-based. So you either start now and figuring it out, or you're no longer doing your job. I said, okay.
Can you quit?
Yeah, I can quit. So
Daniela,
Ilia and I got together, talked about starting a community, and we literally had to process for about a year, 6 months minimum, on all our BS, including cults and all the things. And I'm like that energy of, I don't want to get involved with this. It's really not what I'm here. If life is going to be about this, I'd really prefer to leave kind of energy. That much, right? About communities. And then as we processed all our BS, it started becoming clearer and clearer where we could go with this. So at one point it says, okay, let's just, bite the bullet. Is that a saying?
Bite the bullet, yeah.
And let's get it going online and see how it goes. So we did. And yeah, it was a learning process, I can tell you. It was a learning process, and it still is. But it went from discarding all our BS and having it clear in our faces, where the BS that we carried was being reflected in the group. And then the group, the online community, the student community of my work started evolving and became more proactive, more go-getters, and people who were really, really dedicated to their growth. And I soon found out that I started enjoying their company. I started enjoying being in that community. And then I started exploring the safest way of physical community, which is in a virtual world, right? And that took 3 years to start getting rid of my own bullshit first, and then other people joining and progressing together. And programming the new paradigm community sense, right? In the human collective. And so that's why the community here is based on my teachings, because I found very quickly, I'm part of a lot of groups, not just our own. I'm part of lots of different groups. And I found that the groups that used my tools, like really used them, the people who really used the tools, were more able, capable, less BS, less egoic bursts, outbursts, and more pleasant and interesting to hang out with. And we have a lot of the individuals in our community, both online and here at the Olympic Peninsulas, are leaders and teachers in their own right. Mm-hmm. And healers, It's like there's yoga teachers, and there's, I think all of them actually teaching something or other, right? Biogeometry experts and Reiki masters and all the things.
Regressionists.
Yeah, regressionist experts. And so, like trained psychics, they're high caliber individuals. High caliber. And it's interesting. So that's what started evolving. That's what we're talking about our community here. And a community hall is like, we meet up every Sunday, right? Together at this place. And the conversations that happen are out of this world, sometimes literally. And it's good. It's really good. Of course, as the community started gelling, we got other firewalls happening, like individuals became very protective of what we had, and we kind of blocked the way for others to join. It's like, oh, we're so comfortable, this group is perfect and in every way, and we kind of blocked anybody else joining. And it's been a couple of years of processing that firewall for us to start opening up in many ways about the Shamanshack. And it's like opening up to integrate the energies of the larger collective to get this particular project going. To me, it's quite amazing. We did do that with the roof of the Shamanshack.
Right.
We put a fundraiser out, and the larger community paid for that. And with this one, again, we've had to sit down and process our own stuff to allow that in, to allow that energy and the co-creation in. And here we are, right?
Right. It's one of those things. Let's drill a well. I mean, we have a well, we have water. You know, there's water
for most of the year.
Some of the so it's like the roof. You know, the roof. It was clear that the roof needed done. It was leaking.
Yes.
And the wood under it had rot in places. You know, this we need really badly.
Really badly.
And after having spent exhausted our personal funds, because we exhaust our own funds first.
Yes, we do.
All the ways and all the projects that we have. It's just our nature.
It is our nature, yes.
Yeah, and so it's a little chore in our own to open it up to even allow others to join.
Exactly.
Right? And then as others join in, you know, I like it. I like it also. It's an interesting thing. I look at that roof and I recognize all of the people who went into that roof.
I know.
And
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It really is beautiful. Them part of the community. Yeah. They're joined in the land and the place and the space, generating and creating high frequency human collective community in the way that they can from wherever they are. It's like them investing their energy into it.
Yes.
It's like when I go to a store and I see the product that I've been dreaming of, you know, organic and clean and perfect and beautiful by a good company. And I like, well, it's here. I should get it, right? I mean, I asked for it and now it's here. So.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes. This water is a different thing, though. Water has been...
Know Your Water was one of the messages that everybody's picking up, I think, since... like the year 2000.
Right, remember the water,
the Hopi, the Hopi prediction. I can't remember what's that's called, but it says know your water, and further from that it's like know where your water is. And this being a water well connected to the water, it's massive. As far as I'm concerned, it's a massive thing, because one of the ideas that we have is that we would open it up, this water well, the new one, because you discovered that there's an ancient aquifer,
artesian aquifer, yeah. Well,
in the area.
I was we'll probably get to that part in the story. Okay. Maybe let's read a little bit. I'll tell you about this artesian aquifer,
Yeah. Okay. One of our original aims was to create a place comfortable and energetically clean for Inelia, Benz, me, to hold events where students could achieve and stay within their natural high frequency state and have direct connection with Gaia and the universal high frequency human collective. So it is. I mean, we have done that, right? We did
events before the Shamanshack where we rented places.
And it was difficult.
It was worked, but it was like shoving a rock up the hill the whole time. And then it'd sometimes get around you and roll down the bottom of the hill. You have to go pick it back up, push it back up the hill to get the space clean and set, and in the frequency and the vibration that we wanted wasn't owned by us, so the owner's frequency was set, and you get the idea. So it was in our mind,
if we own the place, we could keep it pristine,
right? A frequency that we set.
Yes. So over the years, the Shamanshack has continuously changed to align and fit several different energies and types of connections beyond simply having events.
Yes,
this was actually a surprise too.
Totally a surprise. I thought it was one thing and then it was another.
Yeah. Its most recent rendition being that our Walk With Me Now Olympic Peninsula Connection Hub, a place to gather, grow food, spend time together, enjoy high frequency conversation, and host those who are willing to travel here to get to know what we have created. And we have had different individuals travel from different locations, even from Europe, to see what did we create here, right? And I think it's been part of the inspiration for a group in Romania to start their own Sunday gatherings.
Yep.
And we see the photographs that they post when they gather, and it's like amazing.
Amazing.
Right? Really beautiful. And for other individuals to meet around the world together also.
Right, because it turns out most all of us in our high frequency human collective bubbles are lone wolves.
Yes.
Because it's just the nature of...
Like I mentioned before, that's not just my story.
It's not just your story.
No. I mean, a lot of people I think can relate to. It's really painful being around other people.
Yeah.
Right?
I think my best friends were books. I must have read I read all the books in our library, my library, at grade school, junior high school, high school. It's like my best friends were books.
Yes, exactly. The Shamanshack supports our personal lives as well as those who arrive here to reconnect, learn, teach, and be. But mostly it's a location where Gaia can express a true high-frequency connection with us. It is beautiful and filled with life.
And there's the can in that, right? You can. That's one of the peculiarities of the Shamanshack. It can be a bit crocodile and moat, and a little bit like, I know I've heard people that go move to Kauai or whatever, it's like the island might accept you or not accept you, and it'll either be easy or not. There's a little bit of acceptance, rejection, something or other there.
Yes.
The Shamanshack seems like it can be a little bit like that sometimes too. And I don't know what I would say the reason someone who goes to Kauai finds that they are like there forever, or it's like, okay, 2 weeks, I'm out of here. I cannot stand it. I have to get out of this. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what the thing is, but there's a thing.
Yeah, I saw that in Ecuador also, a place called Vilcabamba.
Vilcabamba's like that?
Yeah, it's like that also. People will sell everything and go and live there and be kicked out in 2 weeks at an energetic level. And there was one case that was really funny actually. This lady who went over there with her son, and they left the dad behind, right?
Yeah.
Because he had to carry on working. I can't remember what it was. And then eventually he figured it all out because he didn't want to go and move there. He's like, the last thing so he was waiting for his wife to go over this phase, and then she'd come crawling back, or whatever the language was, right?
Right.
But she didn't.
Oops.
And like 6 months later, he missed her so much and his son so much that he arrived. He sold everything and arrived in Vilcabamba. I was there at the time. And he was like, just a regular guy, it's like an American. And she was American also, I think, or maybe were they Irish? Actually, you know what? I think they were Irish. So they arrived. OMG. What followed happened quickly, fast, and it was insane. What happened was that a few weeks later, or maybe days later, she decides that, well, basically Vilcabamba kicked her out. Right?
Kicked her out?
It kicked her out.
And kept him, or what?
And it kept him. He arrived and doors opened for him. I think he was a craftsman. Or tradesman. What's it called when you build houses?
Carpenter.
Okay, let's call it a carpenter. It's like, whatever. Anyways, doors opened up for him all over the place for work. So, and he just looked around and said, oh my gosh, I'm home, right? But the opposite happened for her. And it was so funny because she had already decided she was going back. Mm. And she was arranging everything to leave when he arrived. And it's a surprise. Surprise, here I am, I made it. So, end result, she's gone and he stayed there. I don't know who kept the kid. I think maybe he kept the kid. But she was kicked out of there so fast. And then if you look at the energy and orchestration, you can see that the land was bringing him in, right? It was all an orchestration for him to be there. And her being there for all those months for him to...
It was a
and once
push-pull. She was providing a pull. Huh?
Yeah, so once he decided he was going to be there,
her role was done.
Oh
no.
Yeah, it was just crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's just a little magical story. I think they were Irish, but I saw it there and other people mentioned it too, they would arrive and with all the plans to stay and everything, and then they would be kicked out, or vice versa. You know, they went in there for a holiday or to visit one of their friends, and they could never leave. So that was one of those magical places too. But yeah, I've heard about it in Hawaii too, in Kauai and all these places. So yeah, I think this community and the Shamanshack in particular, and even when I do events, people have to, it's like, you know, another person does an event in Hawaii or whatever's, you know, and the people, even my students will go, yeah, let's go. Or Egypt. I remember when there was a trip, one of the students organized, she's a teacher herself, a trip to Egypt. And it was like, it got filled up with my students, right? They all left, and it's thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's in Egypt. They had to travel from all over the world. I do one in the Shamanshack, and it's like, it's too so far. Hard. Too far. It's too hard. It's so hard. Nowhere to stay. There's nowhere to stay. Whatever. What it's else? Like, this is a tourist area. There's literally dozens and dozens of places where to stay, right?
Right.
And, but yeah, it's the crocodiles and moats.
Moats and crocodiles.
Yeah. That bite people in the ass. And one might think, well, why?
That's what I say. Why?
Why is there such a resistance, right? And it's like, because when this place, the Shamanshack, and even if I called even just visiting for a weekend, it's so it's so far beyond what we consider normal life that the person really needs to be full on dedicated to that change.
I think I understand what you're saying. I remember the first event I went to that you were at, there were moats and crocodiles to get in there, because when you show up, you're going to be seen, it felt like. It's like you can't show up and not be seen. Uh-huh. So there's a little bit of that. Yeah,
and I've also noticed that the people that, like, say, you know, like, we make a friend, and one of our students is a friend, and we want them to come here, and we pull and pull and pull, and eventually they get here. It's a disaster. They blow up and leave. You know, it's like, not all the time. You know, some of our friends stayed, but the ones that we had to, like, pull for months or even years.
Provide a lot of, like, pull for.
Yeah, it's like, no.
Doesn't work.
It has to be self-guided and self-energized.
I think so, yeah. I did notice that. Mm. And now I give the invitation, but I don't, like, I know that if I continue to, like, ping, 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 come on, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No.
It doesn't work out well. No. So just allow.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And not just my students, but friends also.
My nephews, nieces, cousins, whatever.
Family, yeah.
Family.
Yeah. So it happens. Anyways. 3 years ago, Inelia, I read that part.
Uh-oh.
The Shamanshack supports their personal lives. Right. Okay. 3 years ago, Inelia me shared that water would stop completely during the summer if we didn't drill a new well.
No way.
And sure enough, it did.
No, it can't.
What did you say?
Wait, no, honey. Never happened. I don't know what you're hearing, because I talked to the guy, and the guy said the only well in the entire Hoko area that's as deep as ours is ours. Ours is the deepest of all. It will never go dry. Uh-huh. And the creek that runs in our backyard, it never dries up. And the river, that never dries up.
And what happened?
The water stopped. Yes. And the creek dried up. And we rescued baby salmon. And then the river dried up, and we had to rescue salmon in the river too.
Yes, we did.
And it got more and more each year. So I like the first time the water stopped at the Shamanshack, we're like, oh, it's just dirty filters. Oh, it's the pump. Oh, it's the... I changed the pump, and then I made it go deeper. And we did all different kind of things, but it wasn't the water. No, it was the equipment.
So I smiled. Okay.
I called the lady who drills wells, and she said, yeah, I can come out that way in a couple of years. Everybody's well's drying up. You just gotta have to wait. Anyways, why don't you just get a tank?
The first year, the water well dried up, and it stopped working for a couple of weeks.
in the couple of weeks that I used up replacing pumps, replacing switches, I added an extra filter,
Because you were sure it wasn't the water getting dried up.
No, it's just getting muddy or something.
Yeah. The second year was for a whole month.
Yeah, that, we did stick the pump down deeper because the well's so deep, but the pump wasn't very deep. So that's the problem. But that, got to get the guy and you lift up the thing and you make the pipe longer by 100 feet deeper and then you stick it down there. And so then it'll last forever. Yeah, it didn't work. It just sucked it right dry, right away. It was like, oh, we're out of water, honey.
Yeah. And last year it was dry the entire summer.
Yeah, last year was months.
Yes.
So I learned how to drive water in a truck.
Yes.
And deliver it to tanks.
Yes.
With pressure pumps. And yeah, mostly though, we couldn't use the Shamanshack.
Right. It stopped.
It just stopped it.
Yeah. And then we do have people living there. So we had to, that's why we were carrying water so that they would have water.
Yeah, we had palaces with their own tanks and pressure switch pumps and everything. But still, there wasn't water there.
There was no water there. When this happens, it makes it impossible for us to gather and connect, let alone host anything like an event or retreat.
Can't plan one.
And the summers here are so beautiful. I mean, that would be actually the perfect time to have a retreat.
August is when the lake is dry, warm.
Warm, yeah.
And celebration. It's just the perfect time for here.
Yeah. But we can't
have
it
not if it's dry.
We have no water. We're coming up to summer this year, and a driller of wells has appeared and found fresh, true, real artisan spring water where before all we had was a rusty surface water.
Right. So when I researched the well with this, so one of my cousins, he's got like millions of dollars and millions of properties, and he drilled like 5 wells, 6 wells. Yes. I don't know, a lot of wells.
A lot of wells, yes.
And I went over to watch and sitting there with the machine and drilling the holes. And I thought, wow, how did he get this guy to show up? Probably because he had 5 wells. And he knew somebody who knew somebody, but either way, he said, yeah, you should get him to drill a well. So I talked to him. And in talking to him, he come and checked out the well at the Shamanshack. And he said, well, I'll look it up. Apparently there's like this thing you can type in a number attached to a tag, and it tells all the stuff. And he looked at the thing and says, oh, I see. So what he did was he drilled a very, very deep hole, but he just cut some slices in the pipe at the top. So like 10 feet down from the top is slices of water goes in. And all the way down is just a hole. It doesn't even let water in down there at the bottom. Yeah. So he said that's why your water dries up. It's just surface water, and the surface level goes down to like 20 or 30 feet or something. Yeah. He said, but that's not what I look for when I'm drilling for water. I got to connect with Gaia and talk to her and connect with where I'm at and slow and stop and come up sometimes and then feel where the water wants to run. And then sometimes I have to wait a day or two for the water to come in. And when it comes in, it's a whole different kind of water. And I'm like, that sounds pretty cool, but I've heard lots of stories in my life. So yeah, I like all the stories you're saying, but let's just see how these wells work. So he drilled 6 of them or something. And we were driving to the hill house from the Shamanshack, right? Yes. And I look over in one of these wells. Mm-hmm. It's kind of by the road. It's squirting water out the top, right? With the lid on it. And
with no pump.
And no, there's not electric hooked up. It's just squirting water out. And after a week or two of that, watching that, I'm like, how come water's coming out all by itself? Because I had a week or two or a month or two, some period of time before, might have been a year before, when the river dried up. I walked to the upper end to see where the water started to go down into the ground. And then I walked to the lower end from the Shamanshack to see if it ever comes back up. And I found it squirting back up out of the ground. Mm-hmm. Fresh, clean, cold, freezing cold water.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm like, oh. Yes. And so I told my cousin, I said, hey, you should drill and trap into this artesian stuff. Yes. This is going to be good water.
And he owned that part of the land.
Yes, and he owns that area where the water was squirting back up. And he did it. And it did. And it squirts out.
Yes.
All by itself.
It does.
Oh my gosh. And so we went and got a big jug of it, 5 gallons of it. He said, yeah, go ahead. That's the only water they drink in all of their houses. They just go to there, use that water, put it in jugs and bring it home. And so I got some, and oh my God, it's clean, amazing. Clear. The water that we use now.
It went into your entire body, went like energetically.
Right.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. The surface water that we have now, and the well, the hill house, the well at the Shamanshack, it's basically mud puddles.
It is.
With iron bacteria in it, and with a bunch of filters and manipulations, you can get clean water out of it. And then we got a giant tank with a swirler. We have a giant Mayu. I mean, with a bunch of work, you can make it edible.
Right.
Good crystals in it, all that stuff. But it isn't going to match the artesian clear Gaia water.
Yeah.
So, there was a website called Find a Spring in Your Area, and I typed it in to try to see where the closest spring is so we could go get some clean water. And it's literally 5 hours drive, unless we go to the hot springs, in which case we aren't drinking that water.
No.
It's hot and it's full of yuckies. It's not good drinking water, but it's nice bathing water. Mm-hmm. That's the only one. Olympia and Tacoma, they have some springs there, and spring artesian waters that people can collect, right? Mm-hmm. So our idea is to create one of those spring collection water sites at the Shamanshack.
Right.
Put
it by the side of the road, and people can just come in,
stop in, fill out their jugs, their water jug, their water, on their way to the lake, on their way to the ocean.
And this is like a place where Gaia and the human collective meet. And imagine that water being available for everybody who comes through, right? It's just...
It's a great project. I love it.
But it blew my mind. It totally did. Anyways, we need to employ him and his abilities now. It is a rare thing indeed in this area for a drilling track to make itself available. Most places would go said nope, or get it in the list maybe in a couple of years. We believe an artesian well from natural spring waters of the area can be made available for anyone who wants it. There's a neighbor near the Shaman there, so this is what we're talking about.
I checked his wells. He said all summer. No, none of my wells ever dried. All summer, all the water's been fine all year.
Yeah.
My cousin's waters was perfect.
Yes.
While ours are like dry.
Yeah.
So
the most delicious pure water ever tasted without a filter or a pump. Mm-hmm. We have an intent to allow those who visit to use this artesian well to bring this beautiful structured water home, and in this way open up and make the Shamanshack more approachable, open, and supportive of its purpose for the thousands who make their way past each summer on their way to Lake Ozette. A way to support the high-frequency humans who inevitably drive by, but until now have no clear invitation to connect. A work of connecting the human collective with Gaia, indeed.
Maybe, I just had a vision.
Oh, yeah?
When you said you wanted to drill in a certain spot, and I was like, well, it's over here is easier, etc., and all that other thing.
But we can put a pipe, can't we, to the side of the road?
Oh, yeah, we could put a pipe, but I just realized that when the well starts going, when the artesian spring starts springing, it doesn't stop. It's just... It can go into the creek, and the creek can continue for the whole year, plus the river, so the salmon can actually get out of the river.
Oh my gosh. That is amazing.
It's, because Gaia needs a crack in the whatever to get the water out of the bottom to get it back into the creek so that the salmon can
live.
Swim.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's amazing.
That's a freaking good idea. Me too.
Yeah.
I just realized that how it goes around in the circle. Mm-hmm. I think it is human-centric, Yes. It's generally we're human, so we always think it's about us, right?
But it might be about the baby salmon.
The baby salmon need to get down that creek, and can't get down that creek when there's no water running. They can't get no water because, well, XYZs. Yeah. Either way, if we can get the artesian water cracked, the pipe bringing it up, it will go into the creek, and the creek goes into the river.
Yes.
And that whole section of river and creek all of a sudden lets the salmon run. Yeah. That's a big change.
How to support. We have an open invitation for your active support on this project to continue to co-create a thriving, expansive Shamanshack and make the water available not just for those who gather at the Shamanshack every week, but also for those who want to taste one of Gaia's treasures. Water is structured, clean, and filled with life force. And the baby salmon.
And the baby salmon. And... yeah, the bugs in the creek and
by donating your money, you're actively telling the universe the type of reality you want to have in the world with your personal energy, chi, and action. As we embody the new paradigm, we cannot be passive about it. We must proactively take action at a physical, personal, and emotional level. We invite you to take action in this amazing project and support us in its execution. We'll figure all the things out, right? The well guy, hiring him,
pointing where it goes, and designing this and that, and it'll be the normal way of orchestrating wonderful and beautiful things with our communities.
And Dan, who's part of our community here, he employed a water witch to come over A guy I think is 100 years old.
Yeah.
And he found the line where we suspect is an underwater river of dissertational water.
Well,
Just saying.
Just saying. Plus, the well my cousin drilled is just across the river, not half a mile away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he drilled and found it over there. You can find it over here.
Mm-hmm. Let's support this very real, very physical embodiment of high frequency on the planet. The total needed for drilling an artesian well at the Shamanshack is estimated to be 20,000. That's what the driller told us. Inelia and Larry have committed their resources to seeing this done first. To drill an artesian well at Inelia's house, Larry's and Inelia's house.
Yes, right now our well is surface water from the lake. It's pumped half a mile up a hill.
Yes.
Goes through a lot of processes to make it tolerable, and it goes very slow.
Yes. It's estimated at $25,000.
So he has to drill $5,000 deeper.
Yes.
Because we're at the top of a hill.
Right. To support their mission, or our mission, to raising the frequency of the planet through the many free and subscription works is massively supported by getting her access to this water. Aquifer?
Yeah, this water aquifer.
So we have a stretch goal of $45,000 and a primary goal of $20,000 because the Shamanshack comes first.
Yes.
Thank you for your agreement and come and drink the water.
Come and drink the water. You are hereby invited.
Yes. Like I said, $1, or if you want to give us the $20,000 or the $45,000, we're going to say yes, thank you.
Yes, anywhere in the middle.
Anywhere in the middle and the top and the side. Yes, we're going to say yes, thank you. Yes.
And that will be dedicated to, well, feeding the baby salmon water.
There you go.
And the people too.
And the people too.
And the bugs in the creek.
Yes.
That were drying up and starving.
I know.
Poor little bugs.
Yeah.
Those little baby salmon. I mean, I don't mind saving them, but they don't really like that whole process.
They don't.
They live in these, when the creek dries up, there's little pools.
And even the river
pools
dried up.
Water, like they collect up in these pools, and the birds come eating them, and they're hiding in the rocks, and we have to go in with little nets and scoop them into bigger things. They don't
like it. No.
They're not really fond of the whole process, plus they get stressed.
Yeah.
But it's also inefficient, and there's way more pools than we probably have seen, because we walk the whole thing, but it's like
this giant river.
You go day to day to day, then more pools have dried up, and other ones are like big and under trees, and then all of a sudden they're gone. So if you could just have a steady flow of water at a consistent rate, nice, cool, clean, structured water from Gaia going through the birds and the trees, and then
let's hope the baby salmon
dry up.
I bet it was all about the baby salmon, honey. You're suspecting it?
I saw, I just saw. I was like, who was asking? It's like, can we have some water,
Human
please?
Collective and Gaia meet together.
Can we please have some water, please?
Yes.
It's like, you can use some too.
Yes, you can use some too. All right, let's see what the panelists tell us
let's see what our
next.
panelists in the second hour have to say about this.
All right.
Okay.
See you soon.
Bye. Love you, honey.
For me, when a person arrives or they go to a workshop or a retreat, they're normally addressing the soul part of the person. And more often than not, the bodies get kind of not just neglected, but a little bit of abuse,
or even
insulted,
intentionally left.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So for me, it's like we're human and we honor the human body and the soul together. And these events are designed for both.